Hey yo, what's up? Alex here from Metamind Music, and in this video we're going to dive deep into how to mix vocals for rock, continuing with our Forest Pilots song. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the processing I did for the vocals and kind of talk you through the process. So let's play the song and then deconstruct the processing behind the vocals.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Check yourself, the status quo could be your friend or foe. I can't help it when you interrupt my factual flow. Oh, why do we have to make things equal? We're all different people inside. I have an answer in my head or something else instead, so I lie.
So that's the vocal soloed. I'll kind of walk you through what I have going on here. I have quite a bit going on in the vocals to really get it to sit on top of all the different instruments. It's with rock music and metal music, you have to really add some oomph to get the vocals to stand out. So this is the raw vocals.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
So the first step is the EQ. I did a high pass filter around 100 hertz to just cut out all the low end that we don't need. I did a 3 dB boost or so at around 8K just to get a little bit more bite, a little bit more attack. Same with the round 4K, I boosted about 2 dB. I also boosted a little bit lower as well. I just did a lot of boosting to really get the mid-range and the high mid-range frequencies to really stick out on the vocals. And I did a little bit of cutting at around 150 hertz just to really give it some more room. So I'll A/B this.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
So just makes it a lot more bright, a lot more bite. There's a lot of oomph in those vocals, so I really want to make that stick out because it's a awesome quality of those vocals. Next, what I have is the 1176 Bluey version, which I like this a lot better for vocals than the Blackie version. There's two versions of this one. This one is great for vocals, and I have it set to compress a decent amount, so I'll A/B this, and so you can see the difference. It's just kind of evening out the dynamics because the human voice is quite dynamic in nature. I don't know if you noticed that, but in general, when we talk, our volume kind of goes up and down if we're excited, or if we're kind of more serious, it kind of goes down in volume. And we typically kind of go up and down in volume a lot. So a compressor will definitely help the singer's voice stabilize and be present throughout the mix.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
So you can hear with the attack and release settings that the syllables of what he's saying really cut through a lot more. I'll play it again and listen to the syllables of what he's saying.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
Definitely has a lot more impact with those syllables. Next, what I have is a de-esser. I just felt like the S's were definitely piercing a little bit too much. So I just have this set pretty much in a default position, but the frequency range of the high mids is pretty typical. So I'll A/B this.
Have enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
I'll play the line with a lot of S's so you can really hear.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It just kind of like mellows out those S's, right? Kind of just smooths out those S's. Next, what I have is a limiter, And this is just to catch again any peaks that are kind of coming still from that compression that we've done. And I like this limiter has kind of a warm quality to it. It really sounds nice on vocals.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It just kind of makes the syllables and the body of the voice all have the same amount of impact with that limiter. Next is kind of a new plugin I got, but this plugin is like, it's magical for vocals. I don't really know. It's a compressor, but I don't really know like the tangible quality of what it does, but it just adds like a dimensionality to the sound. So I'll A/B it so you can listen to it and kind of hear what I'm saying.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It kind of just, after limiting it and really crushing it, it kind of just like brings it in so that it still feels natural. It doesn't feel overblown. And that's what I really like about this plugin. It really smooths it out.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Check yourself, the status quo could be your friend although.
Right? Like instead of just being super overblown and the syllables really hitting, it just smooths it all over. So that's what that plugin is doing. Next, what do I have here? I think this is, it's an EQ from iZotope Nectar, which is really good for vocals. It really adds a dimensionality with an EQ. So I kind of just played around with this a little bit and liked the sound of it. So I'll kind of A/B this again.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It kind of almost sounds like analog clipping, right? It's like almost distorting, but not. But I kind of like the saturation it added. And in the context of the whole mix, it did make it stick out a little bit more. I'll show you with the whole mix.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
That's without it and with it.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It just kind of fuses with the music better. And then finally, I have this vocal denoise plugin that I kind of threw on there because after I added that harmonic stuff with the Nectar elements, it just still felt a little bit too grainy. So this kind of just smoothed it out a little bit more. So I'll A/B this again.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Check yourself, the status quo could be your friend or foe. I can't help it when you interrupt my factual. Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Check yourself, the status quo.
It just kind of takes away the harshness that might have been generated from the last plugin and really smooths it out. And with all of those things, it really, really sits well with the mix. Like it really sits on top. It's clear, it's punchy, but it's smooth, not too overblown, which is what you're after. Beyond processing with plugins directly, I am sending the vocal to Slapback, which is basically just a really short delay just to add a little bit of ambience.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
It's just that little bit of delay, that little repeat after what he's saying.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
And it's nice to add dimension, but you want to be careful to not make it too distracting because it's very easy to add too much reverb or to add too many effects on vocals because it sounds great by itself, but you don't want to make it distracting as to everything else going on. Beyond that, I also am sending it to a longer delay.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
But for that one, I'm only sending it at specific times.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides. Check yourself, the status quo could be your friend although.
Distracting, exactly, right? I turned up the volume of that and I'm like, what is going on? It was way too loud, this delay.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
Just subtly, and then it enhances, but if it has too much, then it becomes distracting. This is the other one.
Good story, there are always two different sides.
This is just a little bit longer of a delay, and it's even more subtle than the other one, just to add a little bit more tail.
Like a good story, there are always two different sides.
A little bit more vibe. And finally, I am doing some throws, which is basically I'm automating the send of the vocal to this more apparent delay so that I can do it on specific syllables. And I'm also doing that with the send to that crazy reverb that we did on the guitar track. And I'll try and find the places where I'm doing that. One's at the end of the chorus.
Always two different sides. Can't help it when you interrupt my fact. An answer in my head or something else instead, so I lie.
So the scream. So I added that reverb here. Just to add a lot more dimension to really enhance like the scream to make it super cosmic. And also during the verses, if I go back here.
Good story, there are always two different sides. Go around,
So on the word round,
go around.
there's that delay, which I am automating.
Go around. You've had enough of mine.
So on around and mine is when I'm automating. Let's see if I can see the automation here. The automation of send to the vocal delay F. So I'll click it and then you can see it. No, that's the wrong one. I believe it's H. Yeah, the repeat. So we'll click on that tab. Now you can see. Okay, so these red dots are showing the automation that I've programmed for that send knob to go to that delay. So it's only doing the delay when this is turned on, which I've done with my knob. So that's why there's so many points. But you'll see that when it passes the red trigger points, that it sends to the delay.
Enough hate to go around. You've had enough of mine. Like a good check yourself, the status quo could be your friend, although I can't.
Pretty subtle, but I really like that effect.
And it made me mad. My facts are all I had. That and birth rate that left to do. How shall I blame you? That left to do. How shall I blame you? Check yourself and sources, you idiot. Of course, that's fake news. Oh, why?
And that's pretty much everything I have going on for the vocals. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned something, and if you haven't already, grab that 7-step mixing cheat sheet. Super handy, super useful to have around, and we'll see you in the next video.